So when I was in high school, I was pretty bad at shutting up. This is how I'll start this. So when I was kind of a nerdy kid, a little bit. I was in like smart classes, whatever you want to say. And a lot of those kids would get picked on in my high school. And most of them would just kind of take it, and I wouldn't. And so I would.
Can I tell that one story? Because I find it hilarious.
What?
So imagine Ryan at like, what, were you 16, 15 or something?
16, yeah.
Anyways, so there's like the football players and the football players' girlfriends. And the football player says, "You're gay." And he drops to his knees and says, "I'll suck you right now."
Yeah,
and then all the girlfriends giggle. So he makes them laugh, which pisses off the football players.
Yeah. So,
just to give you an idea, that's Ryan, which we're like, that's clever and funny. And I would giggle too.
I definitely, as a teenager, realized that because I was like, now I'm 6'1", I'm 185, I'm a trained fighter. I'm like physically more of a man, in the traditional sense. Well, at 15, like I was a pretty late bloomer. So I wasn't like this formidable person in high school. You
just had your wit.
Exactly. So I figured out the way I could get girls to like me, which was the only thing I cared about, right? So when I'm doing that, I had realized that if I just make the boys feel uncomfortable and the girls see it, that was a way to kind of fill my ego with feeling good about myself, right? Like they can call me whatever they want, but the second that I can go dance with their girlfriends, right, I'll feel good about myself. And it's an interesting lesson, right? Because neither of those are sort of optimal functioning humanity, right? Like you don't want to be a bully, and you also don't want to be someone who responds to the bully with like, if I can trick you into sounding like an idiot, well, then I'll feel good. It's still this selfish space.
Yeah.
And about pushing people down to make yourself feel better. Anyway, if you do that enough, you're bound to get the shit kicked out of you. And that happened to me in a pretty big way. And one day I had a really traumatic experience where I was circled by, 20 people on the football field and
football players.
Yeah, football players, like the whole football team and one of the coaches, and 3 different people took turns with me, beating the shit out of me. And at the time I was a junior, I was trying to get into college, and I already hated my school. I hated where I lived. And I had looked into like, how can you ensure that you get into college? And one of the ways is no matter how good your grades are, if you have a bad record, if you get suspended a bunch, you won't get scholarships. You won't get into these colleges. And my whole goal was get the F out of my town, right? Yeah. So I didn't swing back, and I just got the shit kicked out of me. My nose was broken in
and your parents
many
ended up
places.
Did they call the cops? And
so by the end of it,
like a whole thing, and then the cops. I mean, you're in a small town. The cops know the football players. They know the coaches. There's lots of like interrelations. So
I mean, I can walk through. It won't be that long, but basically, by the end of this, I just recall putting my hand in my face, and there's just blood on my hand. Like I was bloodied, like messed up. I had driven. I was 16, so I could drive. And I drove back home. And the thing that I'll always remember for the rest of my life is the second my mom saw me, she collapsed to the ground and started crying. My dad grabbed a bat and he wanted to go, take someone out. And I literally jumped on his leg and I stopped him. We call the cops. The cops come in. They take our report. The cops, it turns out, the coach of the football team was friends with the police officer. And they took my report and then I guess threw it away. I don't know, but they went and then took another statement and then came back and called me a liar. And my dad almost got arrested that day because he was screaming at the cop to get out of our fucking house because the cop was accusing me of lying, was just like fabricating the story. And as I even tell it, it almost sounds fake.
Yeah.
And I reconnected with a high school friend a few years ago, and I had this worry because you hear these stories about how memories are, the more you tell yourself a memory, right? the less it's connected to what really happened. And I'd always worried that I told myself this story that was it was more dramatic than the real thing. And he even made me think it was like more extreme than I remember. But yeah, that is a long story, but it amounts to, I had this interesting experience where I had very traumatic experiences in high school and a very strong family life.